now coming to one of the example that I encountered recently was during COVID. So there was one Japanese master. So he used to go to temple to teach the different art. Now during COVID he can't really go.
Yeah.
So what he did was he kept exoskeletons
Ah.
all over, and then the moves and all were like, because sensors were there, it will show on the graphics, and all the decibels learnt it from them.
Correct.
So now
That's amazing. See, that
right.
is exactly that he took a crisis as an opportunity.
Yes.
And now I think many people would be doing that.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
Because he set the example in a crisis time. COVID was a major crisis.
Yeah.
Rather than being depressed, ki, I can't do, he said,
Right.
hey, I'll find a way of doing it. And this is exactly what I'm saying. This is how we should think.
Okay.
So the way this Japanese professor thought
Right,
of it, or
right.
Japanese innovator or whatever.
Right,
you call it, yeah.
right. So, sir, when we do data are more, and so what we also require is the communication. So, how is the 6G convergence going on? And let us say, if we talk about speed using 5G and
yeah.
intelligence using 6G, then what would be the physical world later on?
Things will change. See, what is going to happen, this speed is a cat and mouse game. By the time 5G kind of is going toward the end of it, our requirements will go up. Like you have a 4K camera. So maybe it will become 16K. I don't know what's going on. Today, I think in the movie screens and all, it's not 4K.
Yes.
I think it is 24K or something when you go and watch a movie in a theater. Now, can I watch that on my phone? So the requirement for higher resolution, higher speed, higher memory. I mean, at one time, kilobytes was considered to be a big amount of memory.
Yes.
Then became megabytes. Today, nobody talks of megabytes. It's gigabytes. Soon it will become terabytes. So this is like a evolution which will take place. Our hunger will go up and technology provide. So my feeling is there will be some amount of intelligence in 6G, just that the 6G platform will be strong enough that I can even run I can develop maybe some small LLMs. Like I can do quite a bit of programming today on my phone.
Okay.
Like GVV is doing quite a bit of things using, programming all on the cell phones rather than using laptops or something.
That's
Because
also
it's
portable.
Portable and very powerful also.
Yes.
So similarly, I think that the power of the cell phone, mobile phone will go up with 6G. There'll be some amount of intelligence, okay, but I'm not too sure how much intelligence will be embedded into the phone itself.
Yeah. So, sir,
security is going to become a big factor.
okay.
So I would say more in terms of speed will be there, security, entertainment will be far more visually appealing. Perhaps on the phone you could do AR, VR. I'm not sure.
Right.
Because still it has not matured. At one time the promise of AR, VR was very high.
Yeah.
It has still not reached the masses. It is still more in terms of labs and niche applications you may have. Some simulators may have AR, VR, but those are very niche simulators, not like in all walks of life.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I think fundamentally, it's like 5G. See, when 5G came, people thought it's going to be revolutionary, but it wasn't. I mean, it was just faster, little better, than 4G.
Right.
Like in the early days, people said, I can do everything with 4G, what 5G is doing. And I remember my colleagues, they would turn off 5G. Because 5G in the early days was very unstable.
Yes.
Now also it's not very stable.
Yeah.
In 5G, I have seen speeds in India which go from 1 megabits per second to 300 megabits per second, depending on where I am, what time of the day, etc. The variability is too high in India.
Sir, what is edge intelligence and why it is essential for development of technologies in India or sectors?
See, edge intelligence is that you want to do things on the edge, like on your phone, on your laptop, etc., rather than relying on the mainframe or what we call today the cloud. Olden days we used to call it mainframe. Now everything is on the cloud.
Okay.
So I think what has happened now, clouds have become much more powerful than perhaps what had anticipated, say, 15 years ago.
Right.
Okay. I think it was Amazon who started this whole notion of a cloud because they had a lot of surplus processors and memory. So they said, hey, others can come in and put the data, use it, and suddenly now cloud has become pervasive. So I think it is like, can I do some of the computation, some of the things on the device itself? And these are the two most popular devices. One is the phone as well as the thing. So a lot of processing which takes place currently on the cloud, can those processing have? So the edge component or the edge capacity of 6G will be far, far greater than the edge capacity of 5G.
I see.
It'll become much more powerful. So you'll be able to do a lot more things. The speed will go up, latency will go down. You know, lot more processing can be done on itself.
So does it mean that the future robots will be smarter with 6G and edge computing will
Yes,
be
they will be
included?
smarter, no doubt about it. Yeah.
And
They'll be smarter, they'll be faster, the latency will be much less. Right now we can see sometimes the robot,
Yeah,
still there is a
yeah.
jitter, all that jitter will
Right,
go away.
right.
So the processing will become, but it's not simply because of 6G. If I'm sending signals just coming over 6G, okay, obviously that will make a difference because the robot is say communicating with a outside agency.
Difference and-
So then 6G will make a big role. If the robot is like an edge robot, if as an example, so all the computation is done on the robot itself.
Okay.
So it will be much faster. But yes, I think some amount of external inputs will be required. You know, so some interaction of the robot with the cloud will always be there. I think that's where you will get the real intelligent robot because the cloud can keep learning the environment much faster. So the robot will learn the environment at the same time the cloud will learn, and in respect the robot will pick up from the cloud and do a better job than what it is doing. Yeah.
Sir, where is the I would say the bottleneck on achieving the 100% replication of a signal of human to the robot?
I personally, it's a very complex question.
Yeah.
Everybody has their views on it.
Yes.
I don't think that will happen. That is my feeling, and everybody has a different thing that look.
Yes.
We have something called consciousness. We have something called intuition. There are a lot of these semi-understood and semi-defined attributes that a human being has. Not just us.
Right.
Any living being. You look at a dolphin, you look at a dog, you look at a horse. All
Yes,
of them have certain cognitive capabilities.
Right.
Yes, I can produce a machine which can run much faster than a horse. That we have already done it.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
it can be totally automated. So an automated car or an automated train can go 10 times faster or 1,000 times faster
Right.
than the horse can do. Okay, so that has done. But a horse has certain emotional capabilities. The touch and feel. Right. If you have a dog at home, you touch that dog, suddenly your whatever sadness you are feeling vanishes. Now, what
Yes.
is it? How does it go?
Yeah.
There's nothing, right?
Yeah.
Dog has not given you anything physically.
Yes, yes.
Neither have you given anything to the
Two-way
dog.
communication is not there. Only one way.
It's just touching it. The dog
Yeah.
comes and sits on your lap. You sort of stroking it.
Right.
The dog does his head and starts sort of stroking you on the leg, and suddenly you feel a little more relaxed.
Right.
It may be temporary. Tomorrow the stress when you go to the office may come back, but for a short while, suddenly what is it that I don't know.
Yes.
I don't think the robots will reach that level. Yes, the robot will be very efficient. I go home, the robot can quickly, bring tea to me or
Yes,
coffee to
yes.
me.
In
or,
service.
Service will be there. Will talk to me to smooth my emotions. Yes, how was your day? Don't worry. These things happen. Tomorrow things will be fine, like a friend. Yes,
Right,
lots of
right,
things.
right.
But this notion of touch, feel, that abstract communication that takes place between two living beings.
Right, right.
Dog is an example that I'm taking. It could be horses, people who work with dolphins. Even whales have that. I've seen a lot of videos. I don't have the experience that there is a lot of communication and suddenly people feel much better. So I think it is unlikely, but then one can never be sure how things will evolve.
Right.
It is unlikely. I think we will still be the masters. And I have a feeling that we will always put some tweaks in it so that we will still be in control.
Okay.
But there is a fear of free running systems.
Yeah.
It has happened in the past, like nuclear reactors suddenly go into a chain reaction. Though we had full control over it, but sometimes you forget about certain design actions. Things can happen.
Yeah.
But by and large, I think it will be an accidental thing, but we will be in control. So I don't think that robots, if I interpret your question, robots will replace human beings. I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
And maybe that's the hope and I'm justifying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But we'll have to just wait and see. In my lifetime, it will not happen. Most likely not in your lifetime. But the kids who are born today, I don't know when, by the time they reach 50, how things will be.
So the key here is they also require energy. And
Yeah.
we can,
Yeah, we can control that. Yes. Yeah.
so that will little bit limit.
But that's a good point you brought up. I think even with current computation with AI, today the key problem is not solid state, not like 2 nanometers, 1 nanometer, it's energy. So many times people now classify data centers not in terms of terabytes and teraflops or petaflops, in terms of gigawatts.
Yeah.
So suddenly the data center specification when they're setting up,
Right.
the title is, they're setting up so many gigawatt data centers. So the energy consumption has become a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that is going to be a bigger constraint on expansion of AI than electronics and software.
Yeah, yeah. So in fact, I was reading somewhere that people are setting up data center in space,
Yes.
like lower space.
I agree.
Yeah, and for the edge computing or something.
Yeah. So what you're saying is absolutely right. People are exploring. Some are setting up at the bottom of the sea. Again,
For cooling.
For cooling. Space, they're saying, well, if we have proper reflectors and proper solar panels, like our
It will keep on.
energy is permanent. As long as the sun is alive,
Right.
the sun will die after 1 billion years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows after that, So,
Sir, India has done a lot in SAS.
in SAS,
Yeah. How do you see what it should do to replicate the same success in deep tech?
See, this is a question that there are many forums today which have addressed this. It's a hard question. And I think there are multiple issues out here. It is not simply a technological issue. Okay. So, this will require almost like a podcast on its own.
Yeah.
Why
right.
India is not really becoming a manufacturing nation.
We will be happy to have.
You should get some others also a little more. So, my general feeling is more than technology, the regulatory thing. See, today you go into manufacturing, the compliances are so complicated
Okay.
that many a times you get out of it, and service industry is very easy. Second, in manufacturing, the investments are very heavy. Service industry, what's the investment? I need a laptop. I have a cloud thing.
Right.
I'm on.
Yes.
Okay. Literally from a home I can do
In
it.
fact, employees can be there in their home and they work.
Exactly. While manufacturing requires management of people, heavy investments, the return on investments in manufacturing are not 1 or 2 years. Sometimes they take 5 years.
10
It takes
years.
10 years.
Yes.
It takes longer time. So you need that capacity. Okay. So regulatory frameworks. There was a talk by some Manish Sabrawal. He runs a big company in Bangalore. He said there are some 1,000 compliances.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating. Okay. But we need more efficient and very little compliance for industry manufacturing to take place.
Okay.
So people are turning away. Why we did SAS is that it's very easy, right? Exactly the reason you gave, that I can work from home
Yes.
and develop services. Okay. And we have been very successful of it. I need a building and some computers and internet access. Fine. Today I have 100 megabits for internet. Tomorrow I want giga. Tomorrow, next day I may want petabits per second, whatever, terabits per second.
Right.
That's a separate matter.
Right.
So, but manufacturing, then the maintenance of that. You're a mechanical engineer,
Yes,
you
yes.
must be running
AMC.
labs. Something fails, repairing that is so hard. Here, if this fails,
Yeah.
I take a new laptop.
Right. Right.
All my data is on the cloud, fine, it will take me 1 day to download it and I'm on. Here, if some part breaks, replacing that small part sometimes will take you 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Even refabricating it, and if the machine is say 5 years or 10 years old, the guy says, sorry, this is outdated.
Right.
This part is not available. We'll have to specifically make it for you now. Or you buy a new machine.
Right. Right.
So the complexities of manufacturing are very high. So in India, what the midway that people have found, which is a little unfortunate, we have this phrase called CKD, SKD. Semi knockdown, completely knocked down.
Okay.
So what we do is, now you know what I'm saying.
Yes. Yes.
So that is, bulk of our manufacturing is in that domain.
I see.
CKD, SKD. Okay. And I think we need to get out of it. China took that leap and said that we will invest. See, they had a gestation period, maybe 10, 15 years. But today now they are the manufacturer for the world.
Yes.
Everything comes from there. So I keep joking, whatever it may be, whatever the thappa may be on the box, inside China. Like you had Intel inside, remember the olden days?
Yeah.
So now it is inside China.
Yeah.
So you open some, I remember, I got this thing printer, which is made in Vietnam. I'm almost certain I've not opened it, otherwise I'll lose all my money, because I can't put it back, Inside, most of the key components might have come from China.
Right.
So I think they invested, they took a bet on it, because if it didn't succeed, they would have lost a lot.
Right,
But that bet has worked for them.
Yes.
So second part is that the bet in manufacturing has a higher risk than the bet in services.
Yeah.
Because if something fails, I lose a lot of money. Land mass is required, which is higher. Machinery required. Managing people is a lot more difficult because I have to manage people in a different sense than running it. you need something running 24/7. Running this certain equipment, particularly mechanical stuff. When you're talking of manufacturing, 24/7 is not easy.
Yes,
The
right.
wear and tear is much higher than wear and tear on a laptop.
Yeah, friction and all.
Everything, exactly. The heat. I mean, there are
Heat and yes.
heat. Then there are other effluents which come out. Okay, in chemical factories. Now you have to manage that.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to make sure that environmentally you are friendly. Another issue. Here, what is there? My compliances are so few.
Right.
So I'm much happier doing this.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in fact, this will increase. I think a lot of people will start consultancy and other things. Now
Yeah.
using
In
AI.
fact, one-man companies are now coming up.
Exactly. That's what it will happen.
Right.
More and more.
Yeah.
So I think, but we need manufacturing. Having said that, okay, I think it is very important to create. So I'm very proud of a few things now that you mentioned. We have done it. It's not that we are not doing it. And a few incubated companies which came from the IIT system. Let me start with IIT Hyderabad. I would say Pure Energy, Nishant. That's a manufacturing company
Yes,
doing a
yes.
fantastic job.
Yeah.
We should be all proud of it.
Right. Right.
To an extent, even Kiran, he is manufacturing base stations.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so it is
yes.
not
I
simply
came to
software.
know. Yeah.
So he's putting up actual base stations in the field, and he has the whole fixed wireless network running with his equipment in NIMS hospital for the last 4 months or something like
Okay.
that. Beautifully. Okay. So I'm very proud that two such things came out. IIT Bombay had two big companies which went public. One is called Idea Forge. They manufacture drones. In fact, some of their drones were used in Operation Sindoor. And now they're supplying drones even to US and all.
Okay.
Another company which went public recently after some 15-20 years into existence, I don't remember the exact date, called Sedamac.
Okay.
They developed certain controllers for automobiles.
I see.
Okay, so that went public, again manufacturing.
Mm.
Okay. Then there is a third one which is again manufacturing. You may be looking at fans in the country called Atomberg fans.
Yes.
They use brushless DC motors.
Okay.
BLDC.
Okay.
So the ad will say BLDC motor. It's totally remote control and all.
Yeah.
That is a company. Atomberg
Right.
was started by students of IIT Bombay.
I see.
Yeah, they started in Sain. Now they have moved out. They have a massive factory in Chakan, in Pune area.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and they manufacture. And today I think they are among the largest selling fans in the country. You go to any shop, you'll see Atomberg fans also, along with whatever the other brand names like Crompton and Bajaj and Havells and others.
It's small but big impact.
So it is happening.
Yeah,
It takes time. You can't expect that in 3 years I will have a big manufacturing.
Yes,
All
yes.
these companies took anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 years. 15
Okay.
years. See, science started almost 20 years ago. 2005 is when science started.
Right.
And now science companies are incubating. Same thing, a big company got incubated, which became a unicorn from IIT Madras called Uni4. They do AI work. They started with language technologies.
Mm-hmm.
They do AI work. But I think now they have moved their headquarters to Palo
Yes,
Alto.
yes, yes,
They
yes.
still have some reasonable presence in the IIT Madras Research Park. Okay, but we can be proud that a unicorn was incubated in an IIT system. So I'm looking at IIT system broadly.
Right.
Okay, I must add here so that others don't get offended. I don't know of it. It's my ignorance. IIT Kanpur, IIT Delhi, IIT, other IITs also would have,
Yes.
would have IIT Kharagpur, other IITs also would have had some companies coming up. I'm not aware of it. So it's my ignorance. Bombay I know because I was a professor at Bombay. Hyderabad I know because I was at Hyderabad.
Yes.
Madras because of our interactions.
Right.
I was aware of it.
Yeah, so in fact that was my next question, but you already answered that how the institutions are going to
No,
help.
I think we need to really expand our incubation system, and really make it free. Give them the freedom to develop. Okay, give them resources. A lot of intellectual input so that they can work. And the big thing in the incubator that you need to have is accept failures.
Yes.
You have 10 companies, 1 or 2 will succeed. Like I gave examples of few companies. But there have been other smaller companies which came from IIT Madras and IIT Bombay incubators which have done well.
Right.
These are the ones which have done very well.
Yes.
Okay. So you'll have a gradation. Just like in your students, you have sometimes A++ students and then you have D students also.
Yes, yes,
Same thing
yes.
will happen in the incubator.
Right,
Some may not succeed. It's okay. That's part of life.
So-
but you need to enhance the incubation facilities and create that ecosystem and culture. Some will get into manufacturing.
Yeah. So, sir, one I think the problem may come.
Yeah.
Like for example, the student who is inclined towards the startup,
Uh-huh.
and he also has to complete some requirement for the. So, how the facilitation has to be for such kind of, because there are not many, there will be few.
Multiple things you can do. One is give him the freedom to graduate later.
Okay.
Why should he graduate in 4 years?
Right.
You can say, okay, you're working on a company, great. You can have a slow-paced program.
Yes.
You can take a semester off, a year off if
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah.
If not, you take 2 courses. You don't have to take 10 courses.
Right.
You modulate. You know. So you can take 8 years to graduate. So be it.
Yeah.
What's the and he may never graduate, like Mark Zuckerberg. Right? He developed Facebook. He was doing his graduation at Harvard.
Yeah.
Because the company became very successful, he went and started his company, and he never finished his degree. Maybe he got an honorary degree from Harvard later on. I don't know of it. I would assume he would have got it, given the great things that he has done. So I think we need to be very flexible. Institution today cannot be very rigid.
Yes.
So I think you have brought up a good point that even otherwise, this notion of one size fits all, should not work. So here what we have is everybody is like a conveyor belt, right? You come in, these are the courses you take, second year, tuck, 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 third year, tuck, 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 fourth year,
Right.
and you do this, you get a A minus or a B plus or a A plus, you get a certificate, you graduate.
Right.
So it's like a conveyor belt. That has to go.
That's true.
In the age of AI, that is not going to work. Okay, it has to be a free-flowing thing. Some students may take 8 years to graduate. Fine, you may curtail saying that we cannot give you accommodation for 8 years because new students are coming. You stay outside. Now you manage on your own after 4 years, maybe 5 years at most. That you manage on your own.
Right.
But why is it that the student has to graduate in 4 years?
Yeah.
See,
that is
the
true.
problem is we have created ranking.
Hmm.
The ranking industry is dictating how many of your students graduated, how many of your students got jobs.
I see.
I mean, we should throw away the ranking industries, this whole ranking system. Let it be free. The fellow can do. See, because startups will not be classified as jobs. The ranking fellows will not look at startup. They will look at jobs which will pay you 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 1 crore, 2 crore. But if guys has a startup, who knows, 15 years down the road, he can make an impact which is 10, 100 times greater than the person who took up a job.
Right. Right.
So you make your whole educational structure extremely flexible. And the problem is not students. Problem is the faculty and admin.
Yeah.
They have to be willing to.
Yes.
I think IIT Hyderabad, the newer IITs, I mean, you are no longer new. Okay, you are now already 18 years old.
Yes.
You'll finish 18 years this
Yeah,
August.
yeah.
So
We will be the matured and
you're matured. Not will be. You are matured. You are, in fact, you are there at the top of the line also. But still, because you are still in a phase where you think that you can do better.
right.
That others feel that, hey, we are great. Like we are already at the top of Mount
Thankfully,
Everest.
that thought is still there.
No,
with
you
us,
should be always there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should always operate in a startup mode. Then you will keep changing.
Right.
The day you become stagnant, that's what you should, the evolution and the energy which is there on American campuses like Stanford and MIT. Constantly new things are happening out there.
Right. Right.
So I would suggest that make the whole thing very, very flexible. Okay. See, then this notion of balancing 4 years, startups, etc. doesn't come in. As you said, not everybody will opt for it.
Right,
But someone who opts it, give it to him.
Right. So entry exit should be basically
There's
exit
nothing
should
like,
be
see, entry is fixed.
multiple.
Exit
entry
is whenever you want to.
Exactly.
Rather than this after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, that's nonsensical thing.
Yeah.
But essentially, you do the things you want. You can still get a degree after 10 years. What's the big thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Heavens are not going to fall.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So thankfully,
So,
IITH is allowing such kind of thing.
Allowing?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
See, we did one thing when we were there, when I was there, that for masters, many of our students after one semester would leave and join PSUs. So then we made a policy that within 3 years, the person can come back, pick it up wherever the person had left it, finish the remaining stuff,
Right.
maybe do a project which is now related to the industry,
Yes.
and get his degree.
Right.
So in a sense, we didn't say that because you left after one semester and took up a job with PSU, you're out.
Yeah. Yeah.
We said, why out? You can come back after
Yes,
1 year.
yes.
So that's the idea. I think that idea can even be expanded with startups and with everybody.
Yeah.
That suddenly somebody finds a job after the third year because of family considerations, the fellow has to leave, take care of it.
Yeah.
After 5 years, the fellow wants to come back. Let him in and say, oh,
Yes.
you finished 3 years, okay. One semester you brush up your 3 years, revise it,
Right.
and then finish the remaining 2 years or 1 year and get your degree.
Yes. Yes.
Why not?
So when I became academic dean, I had two cases. So one case was one student took a break.
Yeah.
So generally in our UG program, one semester internship is being given. So he went to US to learn things in his startup,
Right.
and he came back. So halfway he did the courses, and other half he
Yeah.
left out. And he came and asked, "Can we shift that 6-1
Yeah.
to another?" And
Yeah.
then it was allowed. So that
Exactly.
way he was also happy.
Yeah.
And some of the courses he completed because of fractal. Thankfully, he didn't have
Yeah.
to do all.
Exactly.
So,
So what I would suggest is you announce such policies. See what you mentioned.
cases should be
No,
told,
what you
right?
mentioned is very good. So in the orientation, you should say that IIT Hyderabad gives this flexibility. We have done it.
Yes.
So and so student had this experience.
Yes.
That exactly what you mentioned.
Right.
So as dean academic, we did this, and gave him the flexibility. He's happy. We are happy.
Right.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this is the ecosystem in IIT Hyderabad, that if a student wants to do a startup, we'll be flexible.
Right.
You can skip a semester, skip a year, skip 2 years, or do part-time courses.
Yeah,
Run your
yes,
startup,
Yes.
and because of fractal, it's a little easier. You manage it,
Right.
and you get your degree after 5 years, 7 years. But you still have a degree, which is nice to have it. I mean,
Yes, yes.
it feels good that look, I have a BTech from IIT Hyderabad
Yeah,
or an
yeah,
MTech
yeah.
from IIT Hyderabad. Nice to say
So,
that.
in fact, another case was this,
Huh.
like the final year student. One semester was left. He says, "I want to withdraw, leave the program and go and work on my ideas and all."
Wonderful.
I asked him, I mean, if you can think of, because you are in the middle of it,
Yeah.
it is not many credits are being left out. If you can rethink completing thing while you work on this ideas of a startup,
Right.
but in 6 months you will be graduated, and then full force. Then somehow after talking he got convinced, and then he got into it, and then we'll do
Correct.
it.
So this is another positive example. I would say instead of 6 months, you can say work on your idea startup. Those 6 months credits, you can finish over 2 years or 1.5 years or 1 year.
Yeah,
Don't have to do it at the same
Yes,
pace as
yes.
everybody else.
Right,
See,
right.
this is
They
a
can
system.
come back and do.
For some reason, it got developed, maybe for good reasons, that it's like a herd. No? Everybody comes in and everybody has to move at the same pace. We are all very different.
Yes.
We can't all move at the same pace.
Right,
I
right,
can't jog like Usain Bolt. I mean, I will run, none of us can, right? So all one is saying is that everybody has a different speed
Yeah.
in life,
Yes.
and you should at least in the early days you give that flexibility that you can do at your speed.
Yes.
Why
yes,
should the student everybody do at the same pace? Why is it that everybody has to take 5 courses in a semester?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some may take 2, some may take 3. The only problem is infrastructure and accommodation. So there you make some rules that
Right,
if you're
right.
going slow pace, after
Yeah.
4 years, you have to find a place. But then you can think of providing transportation.
Yeah,
So wherever he or she is, they can safely come,
Right,
safely go
right,
back, etc.
Yeah. So we allow, sir, till 5 and 6 years. The only thing we do is they should register the semester consecutively.
See, registration you based on credits.
No, it's not the credit. Even the semester credit with low money they can do if they are not doing the credit. So that registration is.
No, but they can do just a paper registration. Why do they have to pay
Yeah.
money? See, if I'm not taking any credits,
yeah,
I am
to keep
outside.
it alive.
So you paper registration. Why money? I'm saying that why do you insist on that they should pay money to you to keep the registration alive? After all, they are your own students.
Yeah, right.
It's like if you have a son or a daughter, suddenly the fellow stays outside, but when they come home, you won't say charge for food, right?
Yeah,
Arey,
right,
khake jao. I mean, you come and have a nice lunch with us, and don't worry about anytime you walk in. So this is the place where they came. This is their home. These are the alumni we will approach tomorrow for funding.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, why do you want to create this bad blood saying that you are not taking any credits, but you still pay us so many thousand rupees just to keep your registration alive? Now, that fellow will remember this. When he becomes a multi-billionaire or a billionaire or multi-millionaire, he'll think twice about giving you money. That these fellows charged me when I was really struggling. I was really making ends meet. Okay, and they charge me for not taking any credits. I'm not going to give money to them.
So there is a hard, like we consider all the cases with positively.
Exactly.
We also write off things. So I would say that, and those positives are also there, sir.
Sure.
So like after talking all these technologies, now it is like ethics. How we should consider that this AI is basically
No, it's a very complicated question. See, my view, AI is one part. Unfortunately, ethics is taught by people who themselves are unethical. So it has no meaning. The students catch it.
Right.
Okay. I mean, you throw a stone and tell me who's ethics. Where are people like Mahatma Gandhi, Vinoba Bhave,
Right.
where are Nelson Mandela's or Reverend Martin Luther King? Where are those people
Right.
today? Nobody.
Right.
I mean, the world doesn't have them.
Hmm.
If they had them, world would be a much more peaceful place than what it is today.
Hmm.
Okay, so I think what is happening is we all talk of ethics. You scratch the surface, the fellow is unethical. Small or large.
Yes.
See,
yes,
unethics
yes.
is unethics. It
Right,
doesn't matter. You can't say that, oh, only maine to itna kiya. It's like that, old movie dialogue. My daughter is pregnant. Thodi si pregnant hai. It doesn't work that way, I mean, one of the movies has it suddenly came.
Right.
So I'm saying unethical is unethical. So all of what is happening is that this teaching of ethics is a very complicated thing. You learn ethics by example. I learned ethics because I had teachers I could see, and that transmitted. They never told me that you be ethical. This is the rules of ethical. These are the 10 points that you should remember. It doesn't work that way. Why do we look at Buddha's teaching? Because he's Buddha.
Yeah. He experienced. He
Experience.
practiced.
Yeah, he practiced.
Yeah.
And we learn from his practice.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it has to be a reflection of what you are doing. If you go back and look at it, you probably at school teachers, you still remember.
Right.
You may not remember the subject they taught you, but you will remember the experiences that he kind of narrated, or he kind of the way he behaved. That he was very honest, he took care of us, he was very caring, very empathetic.
Right.
That teacher you will remember.
Right.
And you will remember the teacher who used to beat you. Those two extremes you'll never forget. So I'm saying that is how it be. Now, AI ethics is a more complicated thing. In a sense that here is an artificial system where I can build in some things. In a sense that it can have more than ethics, biases.
Yes.
Because AI system, depending on what data you use, it can have a cultural bias, it can have an ethnic bias, it can have a linguistic bias, it can have a racial bias, it can have a geographical bias, even within the same country.
Right.
Okay. Now these are very hard things. I don't have a very clear answer. So at the algorithmic level, how do we take care and how do we remove biases in the data? So there is bias in the data that we are feeding. See, okay, and bias in the algorithm also. Algorithmic biases are relatively less in my opinion, but the data bias is very strong.
Yeah.
It is like I will learn depending on what data goes into me.
Right.
Okay, if the data talks about racial prejudices, that is how I will become.
Yes.
That bias will come into me.
Yes.
Okay, so I think it is very important to clean the data. See, currently cleaning data is you have to annotate the data, make it presentable. There's a lot of hard work, and that is manual. People are trying to automate that also. Some amount of automation is there, but still a lot of manual work is there. Broadly, I'm using the phrase cleaning the data.
Okay.
And that data is then fed to the AI engine. I can't just feed arbitrary data to the AI engine. Lot of work is required. That's why it takes time.
Right.
Otherwise, once it is there, so data cleaning is a very difficult, very hard job. And that is where one has to figure out how to get rid of biases. I don't have a clear answer because I have not worked on data cleaning. People who worked on data cleaning, okay, there they have to make sure that these several biases that I talked about, we may not be able to remove it 100%. It's impossible. It's like me. I have some biases. Some are strong, some are mild. But there is no human being in the world who doesn't have any bias.
Right.
But we can minimize those biases. So I think one should have a structure by which in the cleaning of the data, we minimize all these linguistic, regional, geographical, racial, all kinds of other biases that we can think of in that part. That's what I would sort of.
So, I think it's also answer my other question where I was thinking that the bias in terms of the geography, like a rural and the cities, because the data from cities are more.
Yeah.
So people will read.
Not just rural. You take North and South India, East and West India. You take Northeast and Western India. You take extreme North and go to extreme South.
Right.
There are so many differences. Food habits are different. Dresses are different. Those biases will show up in the data. So how do we clean that biases? It's a hard thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you also answered that ethical practices. So now just an example, like a medical student generally takes some oath. And do you think engineers who are working with AI also require oaths?
See, these things, this oath taking doesn't change anything. I
It's
think
just
this
a
is
oath, right?
it's literally a hypocritical thing.
Yeah.
It's just to do chest thumping that we took this, and it has no meaning. Eventually, it is what you have experienced and what comes out. You know, I am a product of a lot of my teachers who taught me, a lot of the students whom I taught,
Yeah.
my friends,
Yes.
you know, my family, and that is how my thing is. It's not because I took an oath and I'm doing something because
Right,
of the oath.
right,
Nobody
right.
does that in
Yes,
life.
yes, yes.
This is the silly thing that we have come up with.
Yeah.
So you have to create that ecosystem where the experiences and the inputs are positive inputs and not negative inputs.
Right, right. Sir, finally coming to the future and
Yeah.
few advices that I would like to give. Since the traditional engineering degree, do you think will still be there? The nature will change, or
Nature will change.
nature will
See,
change?
as I mentioned earlier, I think the word degree may change, but spending those 4 years on campus
Hmm.
makes me a better human being.
Yes, yes.
And makes me a more mature human being,
Right.
makes me a better thinker
Hmm.
rather than staying for 4 years at home. I like the system where students come and live on campus.
Right.
I am a big believer of a residential campus,
Hmm.
like what IITs have. US also implicitly is residential.
Hmm.
If you look at all these college park and college stations
Hmm.
in the US, so it's like a township.
Hmm.
And that town is essentially a student township.
Right, right.
So what there has happened is the residential things are not owned by the campus, but they're all around the campus within walking distance, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes sometimes, but
Right.
anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes.
Hmm.
And there are these people who own them. So one person will own something like 200 flats or 500 apartments,
Yeah.
as they call it, and students will rent those apartments, 4 students per apartment, things like that. I lived in some of them when I was a student there. Okay, so on campus that way technically is very little because it requires an overhead, but they have developed a nice ecosystem. I mean, you go to Purdue or you go to Urbana. Urbana is a township because of students. I taught at Pullman. Pullman was like a dead city in summers and during December because all the students left. Pullman population in my time was something like, say, 30,000 people, out of which 20,000 were students.
Okay.
So you can imagine when they during the
Right,
thing, when bulk of them left, fine, PhD students hung around, but the undergraduates and masters, many of them left. So suddenly it's like empty.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but the housing which was there, not owned by the university, but it was there. So it was essentially a residential campus.
Right, right.
You know, and I think I'm a big believer, though many don't believe in that. Many think it is not required. But I think then the whole thing changes. And the experience and the learning that we got, the maturity that we developed by being in the campus, okay, is tremendous. And ask any student out here. You were at IISc.
Yes,
You know, being in IISc campus, you became much
Yeah.
more
In
mature.
fact, that was the motivation first time when we went.
Exactly.
I want to be here.
Exactly.
Exactly that.
Yes,
the
I
thought
want to
that-
be here. That's what it is. You look at campuses in US are that way. I want to be here.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a great phrase.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I think that 4 years of wanting to be there is very critical.
Right.
Getting away from home
Right.
and maturing. Now, at the end of 4 years, you may call it a degree, you may call it a certificate or a paper of appreciation. I really don't know what will happen. But if we take away this 4 years, then I think there will be a difficulty in the human because they are not quite mature when they enter the world.
Right.
Okay, it's like we have this sometimes policies after 1 year they can leave.
Yeah.
I think it is not that good. We should like the way you convince the student that even if one semester is left, finish it. Why do you want to go away?
Yeah.
At least you'll have this degree. Who knows, tomorrow this degree will
Yes,
come in
yes,
handy.
yes.
And you were able to convince him, so he did his startup as well as he finished his degree.
Yes.
So I think it is important to spend those 4 years and incumbent on us to convince them.
Right.
Don't run away after 1 year.
Right.
Don't run away after 2 years.
Hmm.
See, that's where if you make it flexible
Right.
and make it experiential,
Hmm.
they will not. Why are they running away? They don't want to take these courses 8:30 in the morning till 12:30, go home, come back, labs
Yes.
from 2:30 till 5:30. It's such a routine thing. Gen Z doesn't want that.
Yeah, yeah. So other question, right, sir?
Yeah.
Because if you see up to 12th, the students are within their mobile
Exactly.
and all that, and suddenly they come to the institution where many, and sometimes within one semester they don't even talk
Yeah.
to each other. And
Yeah.
all. So it is really a challenge how to bring it.
Yeah.
So I think it takes a time when they realize they need a friend.
Correct.
They need this.
Yeah.
And then they start enjoying.
Exactly.
Right, sir?
So, but that spending time those 4 years is very, very critical.
I agree.
And as I mentioned earlier, 75% of their education, their maturity comes from outside the classroom.
Right, right.
And 75% because I'm a professor talking. But if you talk to a non-professor, You'll probably say 85%. You know what I mean?
Right, right. So, as we talked about money and some of the important things that has happened in AI, ethics we talked, philosophy we talked. So, do you think there would be a transition from T education to the diamond education? In fact, I'll tell you one story. Mechanical department has revised its BTech curriculum. In that, we have the first 2 years will be the basic. Next 2 years is the area based, smart manufacturing, robotics, and mechanics design, and then energy thermal. This way we have made this. So the guy who comes out, he will proudly say, "Oh, I'm an expert in this." That's
Yeah.
why. But degree will not be given.
Yeah.
It is the basket that is being
Yeah.
created.
But that's how most of the time it was. No?
And sir,
So,
also
yeah.
another
Yeah.
channel like a philosophy, ethics, and all, which
But that was most of the time it was. Like in EE department, for example, students entered, they got a EE degree.
right.
Nothing on the certificate, but typically one said, I'm an expert in communication signal processing,
Right.
I'm an expert in control theory,
Right.
I'm an expert in microelectronics or nanoelectronics, I'm an expert in VLSI, or I'm an expert in power electronics and power systems, etc. So that approach was there. But I think what is required now, given where things are changing, is that I should have the flexibility of crisscrossing. That's a hard thing to do.
Yes.
It is very easy to have the T structure, which is what I had emphasized also in the fractal, that the initial part will be a broad base and then this will be specialization. And what you're saying, in a given department, there could be multiple.
Diamond. We are now calling it a diamond.
Yeah. But I think there has to be crisscross because times have changed. If I were to look at a curriculum today, how do I crisscross between, say, I'm using electrical example, but you can have a similar from nano to signal processing to communication to power electronics. See what happens, suddenly power electronics became very big with EV, electric vehicles.
Yes.
And it requires, of course, signal processing.
Yeah, right.
It requires nanoelectronics because chips are there, VLSI is there. But core of power electronics, which was kind of going soft, all the students were going for microelectronics or communication. So that becomes, control has become very important now. So my feeling is now there has to be a provision for crisscrossing. I'm not saying you mandate it. But the person may say that, okay, if I'm happy, I will only go with thermal and become an expert in that. Or I will only go with whatever design
So
or
he
whatever.
can go over all.
Oh, in between also he should be allowed to
Yes,
switch.
yes, he
So
does.
crisscrossing has to be there,
Yeah.
and that has to be taken care in a manner. See, we did a crisscross department which is doing well even today, engineering
Engineering
science.
science, yes.
And we had a provision saying that after 2 years you can do a BTech in mechanical, computer science, electrical, whatever. And we had some constraints because of certain limitations. But we also had a provision that you can do a BTech in engineering science,
Yeah.
which is like a generic degree. Okay, some people are starting. Mandi started and made a big noise about general engineering or some such word they used.
Interdisciplinary. BTech in interdisciplinary.
All kinds of word, but we had this is a better word. Engineering science sounds good rather than interdisciplinary.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, in my opinion, it at least sounds better. And we started way back. I think it was 2000 when we were in ODF campus.
Right, right.
So I think it was 9 I came here, maybe in 11 or something we started. And it is going great guns.
Yes.
Faculty are happy, students are happy,
Right.
and we are getting good rankers also.
Right, right.
Okay. So I would say that department was totally crisscrossing, right?
Exactly.
So we need to create that crisscrossing structure, even within EE, within mechanical, within chemical, etc.
Yeah.
Because each chemical has also various verticals which are there. It's not, no department is that way fixed.
Right, right.
So I think that is important.
Yeah, so there's something called BTech in computational engineering, where it started with 3 departments: chemical, civil, and bioinformatics. So that is also on the line of engineering science and all. Now, where is the problem? The problem is that if you see most of the courses in other departments, they will keep it as prerequisite.
That's the problem. I
So
agree.
if because all the information available on internet, if I have to learn basic, I can always tell the guy, okay, you brush up this fundamental there, I will allow you. So I think we should remove that frequency.
100%. In fact, in my class, whenever I taught, I never had a prerequisite.
Right.
I said this is the background knowledge that is required. If you think you have it without taking that prerequisite course, fine.
Yeah.
So I think this prerequisite is more like a filter to filter out certain students. So my job as a teacher is easier.
Right, right.
I think we should remove prerequisites,
Yes.
particularly if you want flexibility. Prerequisites immediately makes your curriculum inflexible.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
So you should remove prerequisite, and as you correctly mentioned, and I agree with it 100%, that today the person can pick up the background material from the internet.
You can do NPTL, MIT course for those.
Even otherwise, they can keep
Right,
asking.
right.
If I'm talking about something, if they didn't understand, they can go home and put it in,
Yes.
and they'll get it.
Yes.
So I would say it should be background knowledge. This is the background knowledge that I need.
Right.
Okay, and the professor can be a little flexible. Occasionally, talking about the background knowledge is not going to dilute the course.
Yes.
It's not going to hurt the course all that much. So if I have, say, 50 students in class and about 12 or 20 are there who didn't have the background, occasionally I can spend a little bit of time. Even the other class will not mind because I'm revising the background.
Right.
They will also feel good, ki chalo, whatever I'd forgotten is now kind of coming back
Right.
to me. Which is perfectly okay. So I think this notion of prerequisite is an archaic notion, and we are sticking to it. I really don't know. I think it has to be completely removed.
Yeah.
Like attendance, prerequisite, these are all archaic notions.
Yeah. So, sir, you have guided many students and taught also. What is the one quality in the student that you think is this guy will change the world or something?
Any change, see, I don't look at it
In
that
Janji
way.
you will find
No,
even more.
No, that is putting too much pressure on the student saying that he's going to change the world. I have not changed the world.
Yeah, yeah.
I can expect. How many people have changed the
Right,
world?
right.
There are very few who have had that capacity. Also, you do something and the world changes 30 years after you're dead.
So we should not really think.
No, I don't think you should think that way.
Yeah.
I think what you need are students who are just two simple qualities, are sincere and hardworking.
Right.
I don't even look at brilliance or intelligence. Yes, that's a bonus. Okay, I've been fortunate to have some brilliant students. But basically, as long as the student is sincere, the student is hardworking, that's fine. Now, if a brilliant student need not be hardworking because he can do something in one day which the others may take 1 week. So be it.
Yes.
That's up to that's good.
Right.
So that student need not meet me every day. While the sincere and hardworking fellow may probably meet me every week. Well, this guy may meet me once in 2 months. Because he's very bright. Suddenly he'll come here, sir. The paper is ready. It's okay. So, but I think these are the simple qualities. Certain amount of sincerity.
Sure.
And I'm not looking at super sincere, and nobody's super sincere, but certain amount of sincerity and hardworking. I always believe that if you work hard, good things will happen.
Yes.
Great things may not happen.
Right,
That depends on too many other factors,
Yes,
but good things will certainly happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sir, when you look back, tell us one initiative that you like in IITH.
See,
Which-
I would put it as two.
Or you are proud of something like
Yes. So I'm proud of two things. One is recruiting faculty, like yourself. I think that was perhaps the most important task for me. Though it is not visible when you enter the campus, but that is what makes a campus, is faculty. And I devoted a lot of time toward it because to me that was the most important thing. Everything else, because once I had good faculty, things will happen.
Right.
I didn't have to do anything.
Right.
And B, giving them the freedom to do. So I kind of put it in a recruit good faculty and let them loose.
Okay.
So give them the freedom and trust them.
Right.
I would say that was perhaps one big thing. That is my main contribution.
Right.
Okay, I'm very proud of the faculty by and large. There may be a few here and there that always have, the Gaussian distribution is there.
Yes.
But by and large, I think I recruited close to about, in 10 years, maybe about 220 or 25 faculty, 225 or so, maybe a little less, maybe 215 or 210. I don't remember the exact number right now, but close to about 220.
Yeah.
Because what I found, average one recruits about 25 faculty per year with all the best effort. So you 10 years to 25. Okay. So that is my biggest achievement, if you ask me. The second biggest achievement was starting labs. I never said no to any faculty who wanted to start a lab. At least early days, we had a lot of funding available to us.
Yes.
Whatever funding the wanted, I said, hey, go. And even in ODF, in a God-forsaken place, I think we started
Actually,
some
that
amazing
helped a
labs.
lot.
Yeah.
Helped a lot.
Yeah. So I would say, when I left in 2019, we had close to 115 labs,
Yes.
which is like almost like about 12, 13 labs per year average, which is, I think, a very good number.
Yes.
And I think labs is what makes eventually an academic institution.
In fact, in STEM, IITH holds maximum number of equipment open.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. You should do that. See, that's a proud achievement.
Right.
That in STEM you have the largest number of their equipment.
Right.
But this largest number is compared to the IITs which came in 2008 or even the older IITs.
Sir, among all
IITs.
yes,
Wow.
500, around 500.
Congratulations.
So that is
That's amazing.
really.
No.
So, sir,
that culture is important, and you
Yeah,
should keep going with that culture. That is, keep on upgrading, add more things,
Right.
because that is what makes IIT academics. It's essentially, to me, IIT academics is like a living lab, and you should treat it that way, rather than classrooms and curriculums and come at 8:30, leave at 9:30, blah blah blah.
Sir, it was really pleasure talking to you, and I think a lot of. Still, we have to do it, but last question, which will be called the rapid fire,
Okay.
kind of. So let us say you are left in desert. What technology you will think that you should have to live there?
Paper and pencil.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And what? So this answers my next question: whether you will go for analog or digital.
Digital. I still like digital because that is like in the desert when I have nothing else. Because who's going to maintain that? Paper and pencil, there's no maintenance required, right?
Right.
Yeah. So even a pen requires a maintenance.
Yes.
Paper, pencil requires nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why I said paper. But if you ask me in the current setup, in the living world that I'm living in, I'm a big fan of digital world.
Okay.
I think it's yes, there are plus and minuses. Every technology has had plus and minuses. There is no technology. I said every technology is a double-edged sword.
So what is the one best advice you got from your supervisor?
I think what I have learned from him is let it be.
Okay.
Freedom. I remember, for example, that's not a verbal advice as such. So two things I'll again mention, though you asked for one. One is I did not see him once for almost 2 or 2.5 months.
I see.
Okay. So suddenly he meets me in the staircase. The elevators were not there, small. Hey, Uday, you're still alive. I said, yeah, I am alive. Then he says, come meet me sometime. He didn't even say, what are you doing? What have you done? I don't have any report from you. Nothing.
Okay.
He said, just come meet me sometime.
Right.
Then he even say, meet me tomorrow. At 10, I'm free at 3:30. Please come and meet me. You have not met me. Nothing like that. Right. He just smiled. I still never forget that response. Are you still alive? And I met him. And then he says, then I was ill also for a while. He said, yeah, these things happen in life. Don't worry about it too much. Get back on track.
Right.
Because you lose the momentum, catch the momentum. Right. So I would say, to me, that was a very big lesson that let people be. It's not easy, by the way. I don't think I am that way. I would still ask students, kya kiya, what you have done, not done.
Right.
Harvard gave me a lot of freedom. The second lesson he taught me is, I was giving my first presentation and I had certain doubts and all. And then he says, look, if you are not excited about the work that you have done, nobody in the world is going to be excited.
Yeah.
He said, you have to feel very good about your own work. You have to feel excited. Then you will give a good presentation. Otherwise, he says, everybody else is going to be a critic.
Right.
Yeah, but you have to deep down feel that I have done good work and I am very excited to go and talk about that work.
Yeah.
Now, these are two lessons I remember. Forget about control theory, estimation theory, reproducing kernel Hilbert spaces, etc., etc. That is all secondary.
Okay, sir. Yeah. So, what is the biggest AI misconception, according to you?
AI is our enemy. I think a lot of people behave that AI is enemy. The point is AI is just like any other technology.
Yes.
Right through since the invention of the wheel,
right,
periodically technology has come. The only difference is that two differences. One is that it is coming too fast.
Yeah.
Earlier it took time. From the steam engine to the internal combustion engine was a long gestation.
Yeah.
So we got acclimatized.
Right.
But now things are changing by the time I get comfortable with something, something new has come.
Right.
And I don't have time to do that. B, these technologies are very privacy invasive. The IC engine was not privacy invasive. It was something external. I took benefit of it. I went in a car, or I went in an aeroplane, or I went in a diesel engine, train, etc.
Right.
But these are very invasive. Literally, I'm carrying it on my body. It is with me 24/7.
Yes.
When I sleep also, the phone is next to me.
There.
And there are things which probably the television, everything. So I really don't know how. I would say this is where we need a large input from social scientists. That when you have invasive technologies, how society will evolve.
Okay.
So my suggestion to the social scientists is like rather than looking at what it did, what it can do, or what will happen in future.
Yeah.
Now we should look at it positively.
Right.
Not that it is destroy. Of course, we are losing something.
Mm.
Any new technology will lose
Yes,
something.
yes.
Like today, how many of us remember phone numbers?
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I would remember at least 20 phone numbers.
Yeah.
Today, I can't even remember my friends' phone numbers or my
Yes,
family's phone
yes,
numbers.
yes.
So I would say that these are the changes which have occurred.
Right.
So, but on the other hand, I'm able to do so many more things because of this cell phone, which I could not do in the past.
Yes.
So I would say that these are the general answers to your big question. It's a big question.
Yeah. So, but there is another question associated with that. Whether you will consider AI as a tool in the future or as a partner?
I would say as a partner. Okay, it's not. Of course, the tool always will be there, but as a partner, it is like early days. If I had something, I would call up a friend. Hey, what do you think of this? Now I just type it in and say, and this fellow answers to me.
Right.
Then, of course, I think what is important is don't go by the answer that AI is given. You should do a lot of collaborative analysis.
Okay.
That is, you look at answer for the same question from multiple sources and see the intersection. And that probably is, not the reality, but perhaps close to reality.
Yeah.
Okay. One source is not enough. Now, Chat GPT, Gemini will give you similar answers. So now, Claude, I have not used it, so I can't talk about it. I have not used this. Meta also has one thing. I don't use much of that. Typically, it is either Chat GPT or, and that I use a free version.
Yeah.
I was told the paid version gives much better, much more refined answers. Okay. But one has to look at multiple sources and see, collaborative. And then also you have to do some mental and personal verification and validation.
Yeah.
Then you believe in it.
Exactly.
You can't take the word because Gemini has said it, this is it.
Yeah. So that's what we are going through, right?
Yeah. We are going
this
through
phase, and many say that after 2030, there will be a phase where everything is validated, and we will come to know.
No, there'll always be ifs, mays and buts.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in uncertainty. I think the world revolves. See, information theory
and we should accept it.
Huh?
We should accept it and.
No, even technologies revolve around uncertainty.
Yes,
Quantum computing, uncertainty.
Yeah.
Chip design, uncertainty,
Yes.
right? Based on
Yes.
quantum theory.
Yes.
Okay. Information theory, uncertainty.
Yeah.
You look at Shannon's information
and
theory.
sensors on thermal noise.
No, you talk about your whole what is it that in fact it's very closely related to your heat and mass transfer. I remember reading about Carnot efficiency and Carnot cycle and certain things in thermodynamics.
Yes.
The whole of thermodynamics is based on uncertainty.
Yes. There is no perfect engine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So same thing. There is no perfect information.
Right,
Shannon's tenet is that, and the amount of information is related to uncertainty.
Yes.
In your case also, the whole of thermodynamics is manipulating uncertainty.
Right.
So I think asking for certain things is a human weakness. Is something I feel comfortable analyzing it.
Right,
My mind is not trained to analyze uncertainty.
Right.
But my theory
Yeah.
and my technology and my tools today are all based on uncertainty.
Yeah. Sir, one word for Indian engineering. Can you tell how it is progressing and what
See,
it
it is. I think we are becoming more and more followers. We should try to think freely and become leaders. If you look at US think freely. That's why if you look at it in the last 75 years, almost 90% of innovations have come from one country.
Yes.
And that is not necessarily, and it is one country. But the innovator is not necessarily originally an American.
They
have come from all over the world.
Yeah. They were open.
So they have created an ecosystem in the US where you can think freely, think as a leader. You can fail also. It's okay to fail. You can do better tomorrow.
Right.
Okay. So I think we need to create that. Because there are many innovators about whom we take the thing and we teach it in our classes. They are of Indian origin.
Right.
There are people, sometimes they were my classmates, now they are there in some sense, So I would say that we need to create that. That is something we have created a big ecosystem of efficiency based on being a follower, which is good to some extent. But if we really want to be a country of inventors and innovators, then we should set our minds free. very easily said.
Yeah.
It's a
Right.
very hard thing to do.
Right, right.
USA was somehow able to do it. I still don't know how USA did it, to be honest. I know it is doing it,
Right.
and it did it. Now today I don't know how it is in US because my data is somewhat when I was there and a little few years after that. Okay, but that's what we need to do.
Sir, any hidden talent of your student that you
I don't look at hidden talent. I mean, as I said, I let them be.
Yeah.
So I don't look at these sort of parameters. I mean, essentially to me, see, the person is a human being. Who am I to judge all these things?
Right, right, right.
I'm also a human being. I'm full of all the weaknesses. Maybe I have a little less. The person has a little more. But then he has something else which is more in him than I have. I have less of that.
Right, right.
So I think we need to be a little more circumspect
Sir,
and not worry about hidden talent, this talent. This is the raw material given to me,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
make the most of it.
Right, right.
So he enjoys it, I enjoy it. At the end of the day, both of us are happy.
Yeah, so hidden talent is other sense, sir. Something good that you didn't know about.
See, that
And
evolves.
suddenly you come
that,
to know.
that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's difficult to say.
Okay.
That happens, that maybe suddenly you find out the guy is a great singer, which I didn't know, or a great athlete, which I didn't know. So after a year or two, you learn that, Or suddenly somebody in the lab will tell you, sir, he's good at this thing. You must ask him to do it. Someone is a good designer. Like other hidden talent. I had one student who was a great hacker.
Yeah.
As a hidden
Right,
talent.
right.
So when he graduated, I said, look, man, I'm going to miss you.
Yeah, that's great. Sir, last question.
Yeah.
What is Desai diet for late night work?
Late night work, there is no diet as such. I eat everything. Of course, when I was young, I ate a lot, but now much later I started controlling it. So, as they say, if you're hungry for 3 chapatis, stop at 2. Not that I always follow it, but by and large I do. But I think more important is exercise.
Okay.
In a day, you should keep at least 1 hour aside
Mm-hmm.
where you are on your own
Mm-hmm.
and you're exercising.
Okay.
That is to me meditation also, because either you are cycling, jogging, playing tennis, playing racquetball, playing badminton, whatever. You pick swimming. There are thousands of things. Or you can
Right,
go to the
right.
gym and do cycling
Right.
or do something. But keep some time aside or go for a brisk walk. You should be huffing and puffing and sweating.
Yeah,
To me, that is important. That's where your cardio kicks in. This nice leisurely walk is okay. It's good for the soul.
Yeah.
So that is required. If you can do that, I was lucky somehow I got addicted to it. And it's a long story behind it. And I've been doing it now since 1977. So it will be like 50 years.
Okay.
So regularly.
Right, right.
Of course, as I became a professional, sometimes I had to pace it out because something else came up. But as a student, it was like very regular.
So, sir, it was great spending time with you. I mean, the people say that if you want to predict future, create the future.
Yes.
And we have seen what you have done in ITH, and we are also seeing that you have been doing it with other universities. So we hope you keep on doing, enjoying your work like this. And while the intelligence is artificial, I think we have to be human
Yes.
in delivering the things. Thank you so much, sir, for your precious time. It was great having you here back at IIT Hyderabad.
Thank you so much, and I'm really extremely thankful to you to getting me back at IIT Hyderabad and spending some time here. I think it's the first time I'm spending time in the library, so I really acknowledge that, and thank you for inviting me. It's been a great having this conversation. You asked some very difficult questions. I gave some answers. I don't think any answer is complete.
Yes.
Eventually, it is you and the younger generation will have to evolve
Yes.
and create the answers.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, viewers. We will come back with another interesting podcast of experts.